The field of 68 has been trimmed to the field of 16. Jake, a whole heck of a lot to break down.
Yeah, my eyes were bleeding out of my face all weekend from so much basketball, and I loved every second of it.
Upset losses that turned into head coaches being fired, predictions for who cuts down the nets in the regional titles. It's all to come. It's No Pulp, and it starts right now.
Lane Kiffin is the same old scumbag who takes off for the next best thing again.
I have a man crush, and it's Caleb Wilson, Max. I love this guy.
Solano's in trouble. Hit as he throws. Hangs it up towards the end zone. And it's intercepted! Virginia has done it!
You can never doubt UConn. You can never doubt Gino Auriemma at the end of the day.
I feel like you could have blocked a 6'4 linebacker coming at you while you were.
Goal or no! Holloman looks the clock. Half court for the win!
When you got the best player in the country, you can really do anything.
Nobody expected DJ Lagway to be one of the best quarterbacks in the country because last year he wasn't good either.
First time, how are we feeling, Jake?
I'm excited to win the juicer.
A century of futility is forgotten. The Indiana Hoosiers are the kings of college football.
Welcome in to No Pulp with Jake Klein. I'm Adam Hipsky. What a weekend of college basketball. We've made
The best weekend of college basketball.
You think this weekend was? I think that weekend upcoming is. I mean, you've got the best going at it toe-to-toe. It should be a lot of fun. But listen, I think we could take an hour to break down each game in the first and second round, but we only have an hour to get through everything, so let's not waste any time. What matchups, what games, results stood out to you the most this weekend?
Well, a couple things. When you take a look at the bracket, your Cinderella, and I'm putting that in air quotes because you can't see me right now, is Texas. The big, bad Texas Longhorns as an 11 seed go to the Sweet 16. Nice job there, done by Sean Miller. And then the one seed that's missing from the equation, Florida. What a big game that was. I'm going to go on basically an hour-long Iowa tour right now. I love what Ben McCollum has done in his first year guiding the Hawkeyes. They are awesome to watch.
Yeah, Ben McCollum is nails, and I think he made himself a lot of money with that win. I see a contract extension coming his way. I look at the East Division. I mean, blue blood on top of blue blood. Duke, St. John's, UConn, Michigan State. You can't draw up a better coaching. What is that? Quad? Yeah. A quad of coaches better than Dan Hurley, Tom Izzo, Rick Pitino. I mean, it doesn't get better than that.
And remember, Mick Cronin and Bill Self have already been bounced from that region.
Yeah.
So a loaded region of the bracket in the East.
Absolutely. I mean, a near buzzer beater from Vanderbilt. Listen, Nebraska is getting so much credit, and rightfully so. But if you take a little bit of air out of that basketball, I think Mark Byington's crew is still dancing.
The overinflated balls in March Madness, one of the biggest debates.
All the time.
I want to point to that second thing down you see there. Second straight year with no mid-majors in the Sweet 16. That's what's grabbing all the headlines right now. It's tough in this world of NIL and transfer portal where money matters for those little guys to make it through like they were even just a couple of years ago.
Yes, and they're going to make a lot of this, no mid-majors, no upsets. A double-digit seed, and not just a double-digit seed, but Texas, a team that had to play in the first four, won 3 games in 5 days. That's a Cinderella. That's a team that is continuing to turn heads. So I like Texas. I think that's a great Cinderella story. And a lot of people
They've got the biggest athletics budget in college sports.
Sean Miller has done, what a remarkable coaching job. All right, let's get into March Mountain. We've talked about Texas a little bit, and I know some people, myself included, thought that they were not getting very far. Round of 64 all the way down there, but you had them right there, I believe, before the tournament. Now where you kind of see the Longhorns.
Before the tournament, I had them in the Sweet 16. I said they were going to lose to Purdue, and look at them now. I'll tell you this, the first 4 team that wins, in my opinion, and I'm talking the 11 seeds, not the 16 seeds, the teams that win those first 4 games have an advantage. You have an advantage when you don't have that layoff in between the end of your conference tournament, especially if you're bounced early, and your first NCAA tournament game. You come into that round of 64 with a game a couple of days back. You do what Texas has done, which, just like I said they would, is getting to the Sweet 16. I still think they're going to lose to Purdue, and this Cinderella is going to run out of steam. But yeah, I love what Sean Miller has done with this crew. I love what Texas has done. I saw it coming from a mile away. for a couple of reasons. One, I think, as I said, those first 4 teams do have an advantage. 2, I think they got a pretty easy draw. Look, it was BYU in the first round. It's pretty much a one-man band team with A.J. DeBonsa right now.
Well, absolutely, and they've dealt with some injuries. That was a team that was spiraling down the stretch. So, yes, a favorable draw there. But not every 11 seed. I mean, look at what Miami of Ohio did after they had, you mentioned the layoff, and then you go in and you play a great game against SMU and you have the momentum. But that's not all that it takes. You still have to peak at the right time, and it feels like the Longhorns are playing their best basketball.
Well, Texas to me felt like kind of a sandbagger in golf, right? Like somebody who's got a crazy high handicap, but they're actually not that bad.
Yeah.
They just played in the SEC, had not the greatest record of any team, ended up on the bubble. The fact of the matter is Texas is a great team. I think Purdue gets a game from Texas tonight, but I don't know that Texas can get them.
Yeah, no, I think you're on the money there. All right, we've talked one team in the SEC. Let's move on to another. Alabama, Texas, a couple of football powerhouses that are making some noise. All right, pre-tournament, I had the Crimson Tide right there, right where Jake had Texas. Crimson Tide, we know about the offense.
Yep.
The defense is the question mark. Could the offense get them through the first weekend? I thought yes, but can it get them any further? I say no. And Nate Oates burns out in the round of 16 against Dusty May in Michigan.
Tough draw.
If they hit their threes, it's a whole different Alabama team that can beat not just Michigan, but any team in the country. Even when they're not healthy.
Yep.
Even when they're dealing with off-the-court issues. This is a team that is not afraid to shoot. And if you adjust to the overinflated ball, who knows? Alabama can make a run at it. But I still think that peak altitude on this March Mountain is in the Sweet 16.
I absolutely agree with you. Alabama is capable of beating every single team in college basketball. It simply comes down to, are they going to make the 3-ball? They shoot 35 of them per game. That is the most in the country by a fairly wide margin. First in D1 with almost 92 points a game. It is a crazy offense that Nate Oates runs. But if you miss your shots on one day, you're done.
And it's an annual thing with this Nate Oates teams. It's just shoot a bunch of three-pointers, and you see it right there, ranked first in Division I with over 90 points per game. What impressed me the most about the Crimson Tide in the first weekend was all of the off-court distractions. Was they put it in the rear view and focused and sent away a potential upset bid, and then handled a Texas Tech team that, well, yes, the Red Raiders have dealt with injuries.
They smashed Texas Tech.
But they didn't have to. This was a team that Texas Tech was missing JT Toppin, but Alabama was missing Aiden Holloway. So when the Crimson Tide could have faltered, they didn't, and they rose to the occasion. All right, Alabama. We've talked SEC. Let's switch gears. Nebraska, a team that Fred Hoiberg has put on the map, not just in the state of Nebraska and putting a basketball program. Everyone focuses on Creighton out there in Omaha, but now it's the boys in Lincoln. What was your pre-tournament projection, and then what has Nebraska done to kind of shift your mind?
Yeah, so I've been a believer that Nebraska is kind of a fluky team. Before the tournament started, even up there as a top line seed, I had Nebraska going just to the round of 32. Well, I was wrong. Hand up, I'll say it. They have already passed the round of 32, and frankly, they have dodged another bullet, and they got lucky again as this fluky Nebraska run continues. They don't get Florida, the 1 seed. Instead, they get a Big Ten conference foe in Iowa. You know what? As much as I love Iowa, and I think Iowa could win the game, but Nebraska is the favorite here.
Yeah.
I think Nebraska's got a pretty darn good shot to go to the Elite Eight, which is crazy to think about for a team that had never won an NCAA tournament game before this season, but I don't know. Credit to Fred Hoiberg, I guess. I still think this is a fluky run from Nebraska.
I mean, Price Sanford leading the Cornhuskers up the March Mountain, and regardless of what happens, whether they lose to Iowa or not, well, that could be a sour taste in a lot of Cornhuskers fans' mouths. But nonetheless, I mean, the fact that they are playing in the second weekend, I mean, we know how much of uncharted territory this is for Nebraska.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, you got to tip the hat to Fred Hoiberg. I think because he had such a bad stint as an NBA coach with the Chicago Bulls that people kind of forget what a great college basketball coach he was.
No, Nebraska
back when he was coaching Iowa State.
Yeah.
So he's done it again. I give him immense credit. I don't think this team is a legitimate title contender even though they have surpassed my expectations and climbed up the March Mountain to get to the Elite Eight.
Yeah, you mentioned it. They had a little bit of help with Iowa taking down Florida, but on the other side of that region, no help at all. Houston and Illinois, the 2 and 3 seeds.
Yeah, I don't think there's any way they beat Houston or Illinois.
Yeah, no, those are two very good teams. And Illinois plays a similar style of basketball, just at a lot better rate.
Yeah, I agree. All right, let's get to the final team on the March Mountain. It's a big one, Adam. How about the Duke Blue Devils?
Yeah.
Where did you have them before the tournament?
So before the tournament, injuries in the air.
Yep.
You don't know when their guys are getting healthy. Is your starting point guard playing? So I said they'll cut down the nets in Washington, D.C., and they'll make it to the Final Four. That's it, though. Burnout in the Final Four, a similar result to what happened last year, an identical result at that losing in the Final Four.
Would make me happy.
But now, what they showed, the resilience to beat Siena, to come back.
Come on.
And to put it in the rear view 36 hours later and handle a TCU team, and they're getting healthy. Outside chance that Caleb Foster plays this weekend, but keep climbing the March Mountain, baby. Keep climbing. Peak altitude. Jake, can you help me out here? You're on that side.
You need to go all the way up to...
Yeah, we're going all the way to national champion. Give me the Duke Blue Devils. John Shire learned from last year. They get healthy. They've got the star power. And, Jake, they're also the #1 defense in KenPom. And you know what travels in the NCAA tournament?
Yeah.
One, defense, and also the National Player of the Year in Cameron Boozer.
Yeah, certainly. Look, I'm kind of in the camp of I need to see it to believe it from John Shire.
Yep.
I think he's a great coach, no doubt about it. This is probably the most talented team in college basketball, certainly the most talented player in college basketball. And by the way, both Boozers playing extremely well right now, not just Cam.
Yeah.
But I still don't know about Duke as the national champion. I'm going to say your original prediction of Duke as a Final Four team is still where they finish.
I don't know. I think the fact that Caden Boozer has shown, and you see it right now, not just a scorer, but the ability to take on that lead guard role, something that we didn't know if they would have with Foster's sideline. Now if this guy comes back potentially in the Elite Eight, you pick up a win there, and then if you get fully healthy, you can cut down the nets in Indianapolis.
Neither of their first 2 wins, though, have been particularly convincing. And they played Siena and TCU. TCU was right in that game.
TCU did. I thought the TCU game, they did plenty. Siena, yes, absolutely. But you're still learning how to adjust to play not fully healthy. So I like Duke to cut down the nets. Is it ambitious? Yes. But if you get past the first weekend, that hurt, that out of sorts, I think they can go all the way. All right, Nick Waley joins us on the other side to take on this guy in the juicer toe-to-toe. It's a heavyweight matchup.
Dad, they took over my bedroom. Come on, come on. Okay, Dad. 1, 2, 3. Dad! You saved me. Dad?
Are you okay?
I'm fine, dear.
Your hero needs you now, and AARP is here to help. Find the care guides you need at aarp.org/caregiving.
You heard the music, and you know what that means. It's Juicer time. Jake Klein and Nick Waley joins us for the Juicer debut. Let's get right into it, guys. Round of 64, round of 32. What was the best game from the first weekend? There shouldn't be a bad answer here because there were so many games to choose from. We'll start with you, Nick.
Yeah, we've been blessed with a lot of great basketball over the first weekend, but for me, it was Vanderbilt, Nebraska. I think this game just had that little bit of everything. You know, it was played in Oklahoma City, so it was basically a Nebraska home game, and you could feel the energy in the crowd, especially through the first half. But when Vanderbilt started to take over the game and eventually took the lead, you felt that nervous energy in the air. We had 3 lead changes in the final few minutes of the game, and because Nebraska led the game for about 30 minutes, and it came down to the Lincoln native Braden Frager, who put Nebraska in front with 2.2 seconds to go. And if you didn't want any more drama, you wanted to turn away, I mean, it was unbelievable. Tyler Tanner got the ball inbounded, launched it from beyond half court, off the backboard, into the hoop, and then rimmed out. I mean, it couldn't get more dramatic than that.
It could get more dramatic than that. Missed buzzer beaters? Yeah, sure, that's fun. How about a made buzzer beater by Kentucky's Otega Oweh to send the game to overtime? Not a 4-5 game like the Vandy-Nebraska game. Kentucky with a chance to avoid a massive upset at the hands of Santa Clara, delivered us with the best game of the first weekend of March Madness, not just because it was a phenomenal game, and it was a better game than Vandy-Nebraska, because that Vandy-Nebraska game had 4 lead changes. This game had 10 lead changes throughout it. Not only did that one not have overtime, and this one had overtime, but you had much higher stakes for a Kentucky team that was at risk of bowing out of the NCAA tournament with one of its most embarrassing losses in program history. What do we get? A last-second go-ahead shot by Santa Clara, and then a comeback down the court, and Oweh hits an unbelievable buzzer beater. Clearly the best game.
The only reason why you say that game is better is because they made that last second buzzer beater.
That's what makes it great. It's a good point. It's a good point. Here's where we go. Both games great. Kentucky, not a huge upset. It was 2.5-point favorite for the Wildcats.
Kentucky
Nebraska
and
as the home team right there by default, holding off Vanderbilt that came late. All right, we're going to go 1 point to Nick Waley. That was the first question, worth 1. Now we'll go into the second question, worth 2. What team got exposed as a fraud over the weekend? We'll start with you again, Nick, with a 1-0 lead.
I think it's easy to say that when a number 1 seed loses in the first round, they have to be the fraud, right? But I think that's unfair because Florida, they were the reigning national champions. They didn't really have as much to prove. Gonzaga, 100% is the biggest fraud in this tournament so far. You know, back-to-back years now where they have lost in the second round. This is a team that's considered a blue blood in many respects. But, you know, I never understood why this team was a 3 seed in the first place. Lost to Michigan by 40 early on. Yes, they beat UCLA, beat Kentucky, decent enough wins, but they then played a conference schedule where they lost to Portland, lost to St. Mary's by double digits, and went to overtime into Seattle and struggled to beat Pacific and San Diego. Tell me the difference between this Gonzaga team and High Point, for example. One is a 3 seed, one was a 12 seed. Gonzaga, once again, it's just the game has just moved on, I think.
Sounds like they were already a fraud before the tournament, Jake.
Were they ever? Gonzaga is the most fraudulent program in the history of college basketball. Every single year you get into, oh, here comes Gonzaga. They've got a great seed. They beat awful teams through the whole regular season. And what do you know? They lose in the NCAA tournament. The answer is Florida, the defending national champion who, as you said, had something to prove in this tournament. They did not prove it. They exit to an 8 seed in Iowa after they entered with expectations of repeating as national champions. You cannot be exposed as a fraud when everybody already knows you're a fraud. That's Gonzaga. They don't win national championships. They bow out of tournaments early every single year. It's the reason Mark Few is going on 30 years and has 0 rings on his fingers. All right? Gonzaga is not a fraud exposed this past weekend. It's a fraud exposed over the past 20 years.
All right, the question was who was exposed as a fraud this weekend. It was Florida. I don't know if the Gators were ever in that top tier. I mean, they barely snuck in and got that 1 line, but Florida is definitely more of a fraud after this weekend other than Gonzaga. All right, listen, 2 guys that have made themselves a top transfer target. We know the portal is going to go absolutely mayhem in a couple weeks, but Jake, who did you see from the first 2 rounds that have made their mark as a top priority across the country?
Well, for me, it's the guy who probably had the most eyes on him of any mid-major team, and that's High Point, because they pulled off not only a great win in a 12-5 upset over Wisconsin, they also took Arkansas to the wire. And clearly their best player is their guard, Rob Martin. This guy is awesome. He spent the last 4 years of his college career toiling in the depths of Indiana State and Southeast Missouri State. Finally got a chance at High Point. Well, he made a name for himself this March. Goes for 23 in the win over Wisconsin, and then comes back playing Arkansas and goes for 30. And this is a guy who has made a name for himself permanently. People are going to remember this tournament for the High Point upset, because it was the best upset of the tournament so far and will be the best upset of this tournament. Rob Martin is awesome. You see the numbers there. This guy is clearly the player that made the biggest mark from a mid-major and will be, with his final year of eligibility, at a big-time program, I promise.
The only thing that I would disagree with you is that it maybe wasn't just the biggest upset from High Point. High Point Wisco, yeah, that was a big upset. But give me Terrence Hill Jr. from VCU, who is even more of just almost a hidden diamond in the rough. You know, he only started 2 games his entire college career. Both of those this season. Came in and against UNC, dropped 34 points, and pretty much the reason that VCU was able to upset and come back in that game against the Tar Heels. You know, he's combo guard, good 3-level scorer. You know, has that ability to drive and then kick out as well. I think he'd be great and for a power team. He has that physicality as well. You know, he's someone that definitely could go to the SEC and I think score an average 15, 20 points per game. Not saying that Rob Martin, I think he will go to Alabama. I think he will be a great pick fit there. But, you know, I think those two will go head-to-head in the SEC.
I think Terrence Hill's a great scorer. Rob Martin's a better all-around player.
Here's what I'll say. If I was a college basketball coach, either of these guys, if they were on my team, I would feel pretty good about my chances. But VCU, Terrence Hill did it against a UNC team that was depleted without Caleb Wilson. Rob Martin did it against a Wisconsin team that was fully healthy and playing its best basketball in the month of March. So Jake takes it in the juicer, 5-1. The final no bonus question needed. Jake, how does it feel?
I'm excited to have won the juicer.
Congratulations, Nick.
Good game, sir.
In your debut. Thanks for being here. But now we take a look at our juicer standings. Where does Jake shake out in this
playoffs?
Yeah, we're talking playoffs. Tied for second right now with a +4 point differential. But just Shikulski, bringing out the brooms. That's stiff competition. All right, that does it for the juicer. But on the other side, Jake and I, building a team blindly? That sounds like fun. Don't go anywhere. No Pulp returns after this.
Welcome back to No Pulp. Adam Hipsky, Jake Klein. Sweet 16 action starts tonight, and we're going to be building our perfect Sweet 16 team. Here's the catch. We're going to do it blindly. I once almost got in trouble for talking about the blind on this program, so I want to be careful, but here's how it's going to work. We're going to have an option between 2 players at each position. We're going to get the blind resume, the stats from March Madness so far. Once we get them, we'll make our picks. We'll look at our team. I think we're going to fare pretty well, no matter how it shakes out.
Yeah, no doubt.
But Adam, we'll start with you with our point guard selection. There are your numbers.
Jake,
what do you like?
This is a dream for us to build a team player 1 versus player 2. I mean, this is what we do. We watch guys and we're like, I want that guy on my team. I want that guy. So we see a guy that's more of a scorer, and the two numbers that stand out, 14.5 points per game and 13.5 assists per game. When I'm looking at a point guard, when there's so many guys in the Sweet 16 that can score, I feel like we're going to have our chance to get a premier score. But I think this is our chance to get a lead guard that is a premier distributor. Let's cover that up real quick. Only 27% from the field. Give me Jeremy Fears as the player that we want on our team. The point guard from Michigan State, Tom Izzo, has given this guy the keys, and for the right reason, because he is absolutely phenomenal and he makes everyone around him better. I'll say it, he is the main and almost the sole reason that this team is still dancing.
Yeah, I mean, just 2 games, obviously, so far in March Madness, but regardless, 13.5 assists a game is unbelievable. Look, I like Bennett Sturtz. I think he's a great player. I think he's got a chance to lead his team to another crazy upset when they play against Nebraska in this Sweet 16. But yeah, I mean, what Jeremy Fears does from a build-a-team standpoint, I mean, he may be the ideal point guard in the country for this, let alone left in the Sweet 16.
Absolutely. I mean, if we're talking guys that are in the Sweet 16, these are high-volume scorers. So Bennett Sturtz, that number right there, 27% from the field, that's because he's a high-volume guy. But Jeremy Fears, he trusts his teammates, and when we're building this team, you see it right there, 27 assists in the last 2 tournament games, most by a Big Ten player in 50 years. That's who I want as the straw that stirs the drink.
I'm pretty happy with that for our point guard selection.
Thank you.
No doubt about it.
It's your turn. So we've got Jeremy Fears at the helm. Now a 2 guard that plays off of him, can't really go wrong.
Yeah.
But here are our numbers. Who do we like, player 1 or player 2? Break it down.
Yeah, I mean, we've already got our assist guy, so I might be inclined to go for the better scorer here. But no, I'm going to stick with our approach of going with the best all-around players we can find. Because Coach Hipsky and Coach Klein, we need a lot more than just scoring.
Yeah, those guys are going to be doing a lot of running.
Yeah, I think player 1 is the choice here. Oh, love it. Keaton Wagler. How about that? Not only a great scorer, and Fletcher Lawyer obviously is too. That's been well documented over his long career. But look at the 6 rebounds out of the guard position. That's fantastic. 4.5 assists. Again, he's a high-volume shooter, so he's not the most efficient. But I think especially with a point guard like Fears, Keaton Wagler, who has had a phenomenal freshman season, kind of out of nowhere, is going to be an awesome addition.
I would be more than okay if Wagler and Lawyer were on the offensive end, but I have a lot more faith in Wagler on the defensive end than Fletcher Lawyer. This is a guy that does not play to his size. Wagler, on the other hand, plays beyond his size. He can defend the 1 through 4. So not only are we getting a premier scorer, a guy that has shot it at a 50% clip, he can rebound, he can pass, he can score. He's all around great, but on the defensive side, a backcourt of Jeremy Fears and Keaton Wagler, I love it, Jake. I mean, Coach Hipsky and Coach Klein are putting together a squad right now.
Oh, Coach Klein wants to start barking because we just added 2 dogs to our squad. Great bark. All right, let's go to our small forward spot, Adam. You're up again. Your choice.
I mean, we look at it there, a slightly better points per game from player 1, but listen, from your small forward, you're going to want a guy that's efficient. Player 2 at 61%. I like player 2, better assist rate, better rebounding, or equal rebounding rate, and I love that. I like Price Sanford, don't get me wrong, but Yaxel Lendeborg is the best player in college basketball.
I mean, that would have been a crisis if we passed on Yaxel to go to Price Sanford.
Crisis averted, because this guy's got a bigger than 7-foot wingspan. So we're building not only a squad offensively with Jeremy Fears that can distribute the ball, Keaton Wagler that can stretch the floor, but now you've got an all-around maniac that defends as well as anyone and can score and make everyone around him as good as anybody.
I mean, Yaxel Lendeborg might be the best player in college basketball. I think there's a legitimate argument for that. The fact that this guy was playing for Andy Kennedy at UAB is absolutely insane. Great find by Dusty May. I mean, how fun is Yaxel and really this whole Michigan team to watch? They are not only great and obviously effective, but they are so fun to watch.
And Lendeborg really makes this team elevate to a whole nother level. Big Ten Player of the Year, first time since 2013 when Trey Burke took it home. And what I like about, you see right there, the Yaks attack, is that he could have gone to the NBA draft a year ago, but he trusted Dusty May and the player development program that they have going in Ann Arbor, and now he has ascended into the middle of the lottery, something that a guy that was coached by Andy Kennedy a year ago, I don't think we saw this guy as a lottery pick, but not only offensively, I think defensively is where this guy is so elite. And listen, crisis averted with Fletcher Loyer and Price Sanford. I mean, that's a Swiss cheese of a defense, but crisis averted.
Yeah, no doubt about that.
All right, we've got our small forwards. Time to get to the forward. Listen, the power forward is a highly contested position. Do we want to stretch the floor? Do we want a guy that can go inside? What do you like right here?
So I think we have enough scoring, right? We've got Yaxel Lendeborg. We've got Keaton Wagler. I think we can sacrifice 4 points a game in tournament action here for 8 more rebounds a game. Player 1 is my choice because he crashes the glass. Woo-hoo-hoo. And, fire. Okay, it probably doesn't hurt that he might be the best player in the country. Certainly has an argument. I would argue the best freshman in the country. I don't think there's much doubt about that. Let's get Cameron Boozer. Look, I'm not the biggest Dan Hurley guy or UConn guy, but I do have a soft spot for Alex Caravan. A little bummed to miss out on him, but still not sure you could really be too upset with landing Cam Boozer to our team.
I mean, we're getting a guy that converts from the floor more than half of his times, over 20 point per game score, and once again, we get the better option on the defensive side. I'm sounding like a broken record right now, Jake, but Cameron Boozer is a country mile better defensively than Alex Caravan. So once again, Fletcher Loyer, Price Sanford, Alex Caravan. I'm glad that we are not an Alabama team that has to put up 95 points per game. While I think offensively, this is a team that can do it, I'm glad that we don't have to.
Yeah, I agree. We're looking more like a Rick Pitino team than a Nate Oates team, that's for sure. But I don't think it matters what kind of team you have when you have Cam Boozer. You see him taking on 2 TCU players right there, making it look easy. I mean, you can't say enough about what this guy has done for Duke. I think Lendeborg has a legitimate case, but I think as a freshman, Cameron Boozer is the best player in college basketball.
Jake, I feel like we've gone 4 for 4 so far, which is pretty good for a blind build your team. So, time to go 5 for 5?
Yeah, let's do it. It's going to be up to you. Are you ready?
Let's do it.
Centers.
All right.
There they are.
At the 5 spot, player 1, player 2, a little bit less scoring, a little bit less rebounds per game. Can dish it. We've got plenty of scorers on the outside.
Yeah.
If I want a center that's going to draw a double team and can kick out, give me that 3 assists per game. Player 1, what do we got? Zuby Ejiofor. This guy has gotten so much better since being coached by Rick Pitino. I love that pick. Give me Zuby Ejiofor.
I think it sticks with our defense wins championships mentality. This guy is unbelievable. I do like Matis Vokatitis for Texas. I think he's super skilled and also just enormous. But Zuby has been so awesome for St. John's. I think he fits perfectly with our team because he has not only become such a great scorer under Rick Pitino, but he's kind of the lifeblood of this St. John's team, which is so gritty.
No, absolutely. I love the pick. I would not have changed a single thing, which blindly, I mean, the stats tell part of the story, but also we don't get it on the defensive side, and I think we have built an absolute unit on that side of the floor.
I think there's an argument to be made that we have the best point guard, shooting guard, small forward, power forward, and center left in March Madness. So I would say, Coach Hipsky, a job well done on the recruiting trail.
Thank you.
Let's get to the next part of our show on No Pulp after a quick break. We will look ahead to the Sweet 16 games after this. Don't go anywhere.
Dad?
Just 1 minute, okay?
Hey, Bobo, do trees tell each other stories?
I'm sorry. I'm afraid I don't know that.
Hey, why don't we go find out? Listen.
Do clouds take naps?
I couldn't tell you.
Can birds draw pictures?
I don't have an answer for that.
Dad, do stars visit their friends?
Look!
Welcome back to No Pulp with Jay Klein. I'm Adam Hipsky. We've broken down the round of 64, the round of 32, but now it's prediction time, Jake. Back and forth we go. Who gets to the regional final? And we start in the East region. Duke, a team that is dealing with some injuries. St. John's, a team that is playing very strong. Needed a buzzer beater to beat Kansas, but the Johnnies look good right now. Who do you have?
That's an insane stat. Duke has never won a national title without beating St. John's. That's good news for John Shire. Oh, wait. If he can get past Rick Pitino. I don't think he will. Oh. Give me the Johnnies to upset the #1 overall seed. I'll tell you why. Again, I said it earlier. I'm in need to see it to believe it mode with John Shire. He has not done it in 3 years so far, 3 full years since he took over for Coach K. Can he do it this year? March is about coaches, and March is about defense. And to me, St. John's has the better coach and the better defense in this team. St. John's a team that's going to hold you to 45 or 50 points in a game and win a disgusting-looking basketball game. I don't know that if St. John's makes it their type of game, that Duke can hang with them, as crazy as that is to say.
See, I almost think that if they turn this into a half-court game, I think Duke has the edge. #1 defense on Ken Pom. When they're locked in on the defensive side, I think they look unbeatable. The question is, being that form for 40 minutes and doing it against a well-coached St. John's team, Cameron Boozer is going to be the best player on the floor. But St. John's can make it ugly if they force the ball out of his hands. Caden Boozer is the X factor, which is crazy to say because this guy had about as small of a role as you could have coming off the bench for the Blue Devils. But now I think he's kind of elevated his game with the absence of Caleb Foster. We mentioned it earlier in the show. I think they go all the way, and I think they get it done.
I refuse at this point in time to pick against Rick Pitino. I just can't do it. I mean, the stone-faced look that he had after a buzzer beater to knock out Kansas,
that was cold.
To go to the Sweet 16, that was the moment I knew St. John's may win the whole darn thing. All right, Adam, let's go to the second game in this region, the region of coaches.
Yeah.
And it's Tom Izzo against Dan Hurley. UConn taking on Michigan State in a 2-3 matchup. What do you like?
I like Mr. March, Tom Izzo. I think the nickname might be a little overrated, but I like Jeremy Fears. We talked about it in our last segment. This is a guy that can make a team go from good to great, and right now, averaging over 13 assists per game, he's made Michigan State great. When you're talking about Fears versus solo ball and guys that make their teams better, despite that combined 8 for 36, maybe Fears isn't scoring at the rate that he would like, he still has gotten enough from his supporting cast, Kurtang, Carson Cooper. I like those guys to take down a UConn team. Listen, I love this coaching matchup. I feel bad for the referees. Hopefully they didn't get back-to-back with Mick Cronin and Tom Izzo, but
good point.
Nonetheless, I like Michigan State to advance to take on Duke.
If you look at this, I mean, you would think Solo Ball was the worst basketball player in the world. And that's what I'm talking about with UConn is you don't know who could beat you for UConn on a given day. Michigan State is one of many teams in college basketball that has its stars and has its role players. I think what makes UConn so dangerous and what's made all of these UConn teams under Dan Hurley these last couple of years so hard to take down in March is that you don't know who's going to be the 20, 25 point per game scorer on any given night. It could be Solo Ball. It could be Caravan. They've got so many great players. I think I like UConn here. I agree with you. January, February, Izzo, nuh-uh. The guy's got one national title, and it was almost 30 years ago.
Yeah, Caden Boozer was the X factor in our first game. I think Cohen Carr is the X factor in the Michigan State game. He's played as well as anyone I've seen in the NCAA tournament in that Louisville game. So I think if he can continue that stretch against UConn, I like Sparty to get to the regional final. All right, we're moving from the East region into the South region. We've talked a 1 seed with Duke. We won't be talking a 1 seed down south. It's Iowa and Nebraska. We stay in the Big Ten. Jake, who do you like in this battle of rivals?
Yeah, clearly a South region matchup. Definitely should not belong in the Midwest region.
Yeah, no kidding.
Boy, I go back and forth on this one, but at the end of the day, I got to stick by my word earlier in the show, which is that I still think Nebraska is a fluke. And I know we were probably expecting it to be Florida on the other side, but I think Iowa gets him. And I think Iowa has a couple of advantages here that a normal 8 seed doesn't have over a normal top-line seed like Nebraska. For one, these are conference opponents, right? They've already played twice this year. They split the matchup. Iowa comes into this game knowing not only that they can beat Nebraska, but they have beat Nebraska. Secondly, I think Iowa has perhaps the best coach in college basketball.
Wow. Listen, this is going to be a game.
It remains to be seen how trustworthy Ben McCollum is down the stretch, because we've only seen him in the D1 tournament coaching Drake. Hard to win with Drake, no matter who you are. But up until this year, Ben McCollum at one point had a winning streak of 31 consecutive conference tournament games.
Nails.
31 consecutive. You see it right there. Iowa and Nebraska have already gone at it this year. Like I said, I think that plays into Iowa's favor as the underdog going into this game. They've got a phenomenal coach in Ben McCollum, and they have a whole lot more than just Bennett Sturts. I think Banks, Vulgaris, Koch, there's so many great role players on this Iowa team. I think Nebraska's a little bit of a one-man band.
I think Nebraska is the most dangerous team because they have nothing to play. I mean, they're playing with house money right now.
How about the 8 seed? You don't think they're playing with house money?
I mean, yes, they advanced to the Sweet 16 for the first time in a while, but I like Nebraska. This is a team that hasn't won an NCAA tournament game. I still like Iowa to advance. I think they handle the emotions better. I like Ben McCollum over Fred Hoiberg, so I'm taking Iowa in this one. They have to handle the emotions better.
Yeah, I concur. Iowa is a weird situation. I think as crazy as it is that Nebraska won an NCAA tournament team for the first time ever, it's crazier that Iowa is here right now. Ben McCollum one day soon is going to get a big-time job if he wants to leave the state of Iowa. All right, let's go to the South region, Adam. Who do you like in a 2-3 battle between the Fighting Illini and the Houston Cougars?
Well, we came to an agreement on it will be Iowa advancing to the Elite Eight. I'm going to stick on this side with our guy, Keen Wagler. Illinois can win this game. And I understand that Houston looks really good, and the Cougars have been there. They're experienced. Well, you want who's not experienced? Kingston Flemings. I think this could really play to Illinois' advantage.
Yeah, Keaton Wagler's got a ton of NCAA tournament experience.
Yes, outside of him, though, I think that the Fighting Illini have more around him. They've been around the block. I think the Illinois offense is just absolutely spectacular. I understand that the defense travels everywhere for Houston, but this Illinois offense can overwhelm you when they're clicking at so many different angles. That's why I like ILL, I.
Yeah, the one thing I will say, neither of these teams has really been tested in the NCAA tournament so far. So this should be interesting. I've got a little bit of a bone to pick. Everybody's been all over the Houston defense all year. Oh, they're a better offensive team than they have been, but just not the same defensively. What are you talking about? Houston has the second best defense in the country. You see that? Barely 0.8 of a point per possession is an unbelievable number. Kelvin Sampson is going to get a national title one of these days. I think this year is as good a chance as he's had in a while. Kingston Flemings is legit. They do have some really veteran players. I like Houston here.
Kelvin Sampson, always the bridesmaid, never the bride. Something we didn't talk
about. He's going
to
be the bride one time.
Was the Cougars have pretty much a home court advantage playing in Houston.
They're playing in Houston.
It was a 3-mile drive from the Houston campus to the hotel where they're staying at to play in the Toyota Center. All right, we've talked the East region. We've talked the South. Let's go out West. Arizona versus Arkansas. A 1 seed here. Does Tommy Lloyd get it done and advance to the Elite Eight?
No, Tommy Lloyd and getting it done should never be put in the same sentence, all right? John Calipari has won the breakup better than anybody, maybe in the history of sports. You could argue Tom Brady over Bill Belichick, but look at Kentucky and look at John Calipari. Meanwhile, look at Tommy Lloyd. No surprise that this guy comes from the Mark Few coaching tree, another guy who just cannot get it done when the lights are bright. Tommy Lloyd eliminated. Guess what? He's going to be out for a 5th straight year at the helm of Arizona, this time with his best chance yet. I just think Darius Acuff for Arkansas is so unbelievable. As a freshman, one of the most underrated players, in my opinion, throughout this college basketball season. I think he's finally getting his shine in March. It is well-deserved. Coach Cal has a contender on his hands.
The Razorbacks are playing as well as anyone right now in the country, and it feels like their defense is peaking at the right time, and defense travels. But a team that we're talking about that doesn't have an underrated defense, I think Arkansas's defense is underrated, Arizona, but that's just because their defense is phenomenal. So I've got Arizona. It's Tommy Lloyd's best chance, and I think he finally takes advantage. Arkansas just has too many inconsistencies, although I would not want to face this guy right now.
All right, let's go to Purdue against Texas. Our supposed Cinderella Longhorns against the Boilermakers. What do you think here?
Take the glass slippers off. Purdue advances. Matt Painter, I understand the stereotype. Maybe this guy doesn't get it done in March, but he wins, and he wins at a consistent level, and he's won with that guy right there. Braden Smith has been as good of a floor general as anyone in the country. Talk about guys that make players around him better. Trey Kaufman, Rendon, Fletcher, Lawyer were 3 stars out of the state of Indiana that no Power 5 teams had their eyes on, and Braden Smith has made them all Big Ten, All-American caliber players. Give me Purdue to handle Texas. I don't think it's particularly close. I like what Sean Miller has done, but I think it comes to an end in the Sweet 16.
Lawyer, TKR, Braden Smith, all among the most experienced players in college basketball. If Purdue is ever going to do it, and I know they don't have some of the great players, the Zach Edey's that they've had in recent years. If Purdue is ever going to do it, this may be the time because of the experience they have.
There's no, unblemished UConn. All right, we've talked Purdue, Texas, Michigan, Alabama. I know you feel a certain way about the Crimson Tide when they're at their best, but who do you have advancing in the Midwest region?
Well, the question is going to be, are the Crimson Tide at their best? And frankly, we're not going to know until about halfway through the game. And so for that reason, I'm going to stick with the most talented team in this matchup, and that's Michigan. But I'll say this, look out, because as we said earlier, this Alabama offense is unbelievable. They play so fast, and they shoot the ball like it is nobody's business. Sometimes they make them, sometimes they don't make them. And if they make them, they've got as good a chance to pick off Michigan as anybody in this tournament. But when halftime comes, if Alabama is shooting 29% from 3, this is going to be a tough hill to overcome. And so for that reason, I'm going to stick with the team that is the most talented, and that's Michigan. But Alabama has upset potential all over it.
Live by the 3, die by the 3 with Nate Oates' group. I think the difference is that the Crimson Tide haven't faced a defense with the length that can disrupt them out on the perimeter. That's why I like Michigan. I think the Wolverines can control the game. Alabama certainly can get up by 10, 15 points early, but I think over the span of 40 minutes, I like the Wolverines.
Yeah, they got a chance. That's all I'm saying. They got a chance. All right, let's go to the final game at the bottom of your brackets. Tennessee, which has gone kind of under the radar. Rick Barton's not ducking out early this year. His team goes up against TJ Otzelberger's 2-seeded Iowa State. What do you like here?
I like Iowa State. I know they've dealt with some injuries, but the fact that they got to the second weekend tells me enough. I love TJ Otzelberger. I heard a quote that he can take five guys from the rec center and turn them into a top 10 defense in the country. I couldn't agree more. He's not taking 5 guys from the rec center, though. He's taking 4 and 5 stars. So give me Iowa State. Rick Barnes, yes, he advances, but I like the Cyclones to keep on dancing. When they're healthy, it's a Final Four team. The defense is elite. We've talked about it. But they've got a point guard, Tamin Lipsey, that I like as good as any point guard in the tournament still remaining.
Yeah, very good player. No doubt about that. I think I like Tennessee here. I do not trust TJ Otzelberger. I think he is.
But you trust Rick Barnes?
Oh, I think TJ Otzelberger should be in the Hall of Fame of regular season coaches. But he has never produced when it comes tournament time, wherever he has been. And right now at Iowa State, I don't think that changes. Rick Barnes has a Tennessee team playing very hard right now. Maybe doesn't have the elite scoring ability that his past teams have, but they're very strong defensively, which they have not been in past years. I love the way their bigs are playing too. I like Tennessee here.
Both teams extremely inconsistent. I think it could get ugly. This feels like a street fight. But listen,
look at that. Iowa State 8-7 in quad one games.
All you got to do is beat Rick Barnes. Jacoby Gillespie, I think, is very good. But I think Iowa State can take him out of the game and make him a non-factor. All right, your picks. We've gotten it down to the 8. But who cuts down the nets? Who do you find cutting down the nets, not just in their regions, but also in Indianapolis?
Yeah, I mean, what's crazy about this tournament and why I love the way this is unfolded with so few upsets is we've just got heavyweight bout after heavyweight bout after heavyweight bout in the Sweet 16 and on. And so it's hard to say. I would say at the end of the day, I think what's probably the best player in the country is going to make the difference. And for that reason, I would lean Michigan. In my opinion, it is the first time in ages that we have reached the Sweet 16, and I can honestly say I don't have a great idea of who's going to win.
Yeah, I like the 3-1 seeds to get to the Final Four, Michigan, Duke, Arizona, and then I liked Illinois to beat Houston. I think Illinois gets to the Final Four. 2 Big Ten teams there.
Wow.
And then
is this the year for the Big Ten?
We've talked about it. I said at the start of the show, Duke cuts down the nets. John Shire gets to put the net in his hat, and he gets to finally put everything to bed on how this guy can't live up to Coach K, because within his first 5 seasons, he's going to win a national championship. It's going to happen this year in Indianapolis. I think advantage, though, to the Big Ten. Michigan and Illinois potentially playing kind of home games there at Lucas Oil Stadium.
No Big Ten national title since Michigan State in 2000. Crazy.
We talked about this Iowa State-Tennessee game. You don't trust TJ Otzelberger. I don't trust Rick Barnes. On the other side, we'll tell you some coaches that we do trust. Plays of the week, plenty to choose from the first weekend of the NCAA tournament, and our final words coming up right after this.
Welcome to my house. Lately, not my happy place. Everybody's pretty tired of each other. The parents were not themselves. My little brothers were morphing into small creatures.
Welcome back into No Pulp. Jay Klein, Adam Hipsky. We've talked a whole lot of college basketball. Why stop now? Closing up shop. We have to get to our big 3. So many coaches that are still alive in this NCAA tournament that are absolutely spectacular, but I'm giving you the 3 that I trust the most. Dusty May, an elite in-game adjuster. He evaluates talent as good as anybody, one of the best young coaches in the nation. I mean, the guy took FAU to the Final Four. Now look at what he's doing with the Michigan team. I think the Mr. March nickname's a little overrated, but I like Tom Izzo as the top guy.
You were all over him
in the East region, and I think that he takes down Rick Pitino. So I like Dusty May, Tom Izzo, 2 Big Ten guys, and a Big East, Northeast, Rick Pitino.
These guys here, in my opinion, are not to be trusted. This is all about coaches we can trust the most. Dusty may well be the best coach in college basketball, but just because you're the best coach in college basketball, just like I said, TJ Otzelberger was a regular season Hall of Famer. We have not seen Dusty May get up on a ladder and cut a national title net down. Until we get to that point, and by the way, Tom Izzo, it's happened in the last 25 years, then I can say, I trust you in March. These guys right now are not trustworthy. This guy right here is the most trustworthy coach in the country. Put him in the white suit for number one. Slick Rick Pitino is the most trustworthy coach in college basketball right now. He's got his team playing so hard. I don't know how he's doing that at his age, by the way.
Looks great.
Yeah, I mean, the guy is a sicko. The fact that he can beat Kansas on a buzzer-beating layup to go to the Sweet 16 and just stand there like, unbelievable. He is a sicko. He is a sicko. And by the way, a guy I trust because he's proven himself in March. Back-to-back national titles, first time since 07-08 that it happened in college basketball. Dan Hurley is to be trusted, as crazy as he is. Now, the kind of wild card in my three here is this guy.
I mean, come on.
He has not done it
We're
yet.
trusting him.
Nope. He has not done it yet. But I'm telling you, of all the coaches in this field who have not won a national title, the one I am most confident will win a national title is Kelvin Sampson. Because you've been saying it all show. Defense travels. And what does Kelvin Sampson do better than anybody? He teaches great defensive teams.
I get they have the experience, but I think Dusty May is as good as any coach in the nation. He has not disappointed in the NCAA tournament yet. I don't see it happening this year. I think the Wolverines get to the Final Four. All right, let's bring in our plays of the week. So many to choose from. Buzzer beaters, upsets. I'm going with an upset. Chase Johnston from the logo sparking a comeback run over Wisconsin. Listen, High Point had their backs against the wall until a guy that hadn't hit a two-pointer all year to that point. I mean, talk about the stones on Chase Johnston to hit that shot in that moment and give High Point a chance to propel itself to a victory.
Yeah, my play of the week is a buzzer beater after your upset. It's the one I've been talking about throughout the whole show. Let's bring in Dylan Darling, the St. John's gritty little point guard who takes this side out of bounds to the rack for the win over Kansas. This guy averaged 6 points a game throughout the season and had not scored a point in this game to this point. After Bill Self goes with a little gamesmanship, intentionally fouling to slow down St. John's, whittle some time down, Dylan Darling knows he doesn't have time for anything else but a full sprint, and he sends the Johnnies to the Sweet 16, where I think, and there's Slick Rick with his stare down, Johnnies are going to win over Duke.
We've talked so much men's college basketball, but before we close things out, I want to leave you with this. If you're not locked into the women's tournament right now, you're missing out. Because everything you love about March is still there. The buzzer beaters, the chaos, the runs that seem to make no sense at all, and the moments that you'll be talking about all year. But this year, there's something even more. Yes, the Blue Bloods are still here. UConn looks as dominant as ever. South Carolina lurking like always. But this isn't just about the usual names anymore. There are 10 teams still alive, chasing their first ever national championship. 10. That means every night you're watching potential history on the line. Programs that have been knocking on the door for years or ones that just showed up and decided that they belong at this point. That's what makes this different. It's not just about who wins, it's about who breaks through. So yeah, pay attention because the next great March moment, it might not come from who you expect, and that's exactly why you can't look away.
For my final word, I want to address one of the biggest narratives surrounding this NCAA tournament. Let's pump the brakes on the outrage over the lack of upsets in March Madness. It's true, all right? We've seen fewer upsets in the past 2 years than we ever have before. And yes, Cinderella stories are fun. George Mason crashing the party in the 2006 Final Four, or St. Peter's with its magical run to the 2022 Elite Eight. But what we forget is that George Mason was eliminated with a 15-point loss, and St. Peter's blown out by 20. So those moments are great, but they're also reminders that even the underdog always runs out of gas. The reality, college basketball has changed. With the transfer portal and NIL, these fluky upsets are just not as possible anymore, and we're left with talent concentrated at the top and something even better, heavyweight fights. Instead of these fluky runs that peter out in the form of routes at the end of the tournament, we're getting elite teams, stacked rosters, and matchups that actually feel like championship-level basketball. So yes, fewer upsets might mean fewer fairy tales. It also means the best teams are proving it on the biggest stage. And to me, that sounds like a pretty good way to decide a champion.
Jake, I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, talk about good basketball coming down the stretch. You don't have to worry about 10-plus point spreads in the Final Four because in the Sweet 16 and Elite 8, we've got heavyweight on top of heavyweight on top of heavyweight.
I mean, we just went through the matchups. Every single one of them is a blockbuster that could go either way. At the end of a tournament, I don't know what more you could ask for than that. I'm ready for my eyeballs to fall out of my head all over again.
Exactly. All right, we thank you for joining us on this episode of No Pulp. Upsets, analysis, whole lot to break down. It was a ton of fun. For Jake Klein, I'm Adam Hipsky. Thanks to our entire producing crew. We'll see you next time on No Pulp.